Punchestown Festival begins on Tuesday, April the 24th. 5 days of top-class jumps racing, 11 Grade 1 races to be decided, and the climax of Ireland's jump racing season. To talk about Punchestown, past, present, and maybe the future, we have Ted Walsh and Tony Mullins. Ted, it's one of your local tracks. You must have memories going back a long way of Punchestown.
Yeah, like when you come back, you're really getting old now when you start going back to fellas like me. I know I'm old, but I'm definitely dipping back into the past. 61 and 2 were my first years. We moved out from Dublin to live in Kill, and my first Punchestown was 61. And the reason I can remember is the schools used to close. Every school around Kill, Johnstown, Ballymore, Kilcullen, 2 Mile House, Naas, close shop, 2 days rest, Tuesday and Wednesday, you had 2 days off. And everyone would come to Punchestown. Most of us would go into the hurdy-gurdies in the middle, watch the horses, a lot of bank races. And they were my first memories of Punchestown. And it was a 2-day meeting then for a few years, and then it became 3 days. Of course, now it's a week.
Compared to now, in those days, it was basically all about the bank races, wasn't it?
It was a great meeting, all about the banks. The people I remember well then, we say, were like the amateurs were Billy McLaren and Francis Flood and Willie Rooney and Ned Cash and all them lads, Alan Livingston. And the professional jockeys, of course, were like Pat and Toss Taft, the 2 Tafts, Bobby Coonan, Frankie Carroll, Francis Short, Tony Redmond, Christy Canan. All them lads were household names to me then. And Tony's father, Paddy, was training then. But he was only in a small scale at that stage. It wasn't later on in life that he became the dynamic man that he turned out to be. But it was all that. And they're the memories you sort of look back at and you compare them. I remember Arkle running here in 63. He didn't stand out to me then because he was only 13 years of age. He was after winning the Broadway. He was only a novice. He beat Silver Green. One horse that sticks out in my mind from that area was the big grey horse of Frank Farmer's, who was local down there where Killishee is now. At the back of that was Owen Sedge. But all them memories, childhood memories you have, and Punchestown has always been part of my upbringing, part of my life. I couldn't wait to be old enough to ride here, to partake, to come here. It's a wonderful place.
And riding here, you had plenty of success?
Yeah, loads of success. Rode a lot of good horses, rode a lot of bank winners, Ladies' Cup, Latouche, which was always great to ride in them, the Bishop's Court Cup. I rode Pat Taft's first win around here, a mare called Russian Friend for Ted O'Connor, who was a local man down in near our clock there in Boston. And a lot of success. Rode a big one here for my dad, Noah Hill, won the Jemison in 86. Came back afterwards and trained Comanche Court to win here. But I had a lot of luck around here. It was something that you look forward to, Punchestown. And the great days stick out in your mind. And I remember Tony and the match race in 86 and all the great horses that ran here. And even remember a walkover here, Lochina in the Jemison. The only walkover I can remember. There was no runner in the Jemison that year, only Lochina. Sean Barker rode him for Jim Draper. But I have terrific memories of Punchestown and everything about it.
Tony Mullins, the Mullins Association with Punchestown goes back a fair way too.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just, for hurlers to go to Croke Park, Punchestown, to get here and have a good horse, from the middle of January, if you had a nice horse, you were always thinking what race in Punchestown would suit him. And, over the years, we were just very lucky to have a lot of good horses, and I was lucky to be riding from my father some beautiful horses to win. The Guinness Chase was the big race at the time for me. I think I won it on Pearlstone. He was only a small horse, and I had fallen off him in the Irish National, and this was only his 3rd run over fences, and he nearly fell at the last and won, but it was a fantastic day. And even before I started riding myself, I remember a horse of Mrs. Hill's called Slaney Gorge. Richard Short, uncle of John Short, rode him to win the Guinness Chase as well. And as long as I can remember, coming to Punchestown was, just something else.
Your dad also would have started very early in life, rode a winner here and trained a winner here way back in the 50s.
Yeah, I think in 53 he won. I'd say she was the dam of a very good mare he had after called Height of Fashion, who ran Arkle to a couple of photo finishes. and he trained her, just got his license out over his, taken over from his father. And he trained and rode it. And I'm sure my mother was here. It was before I was born, but
She's still here.
and she's still coming. I can tell you, she's getting ready for Punchestown. From the minute Cheltenham is over, and her memory is crystal clear still of all the great winners we had. So, it's a very, very special place, and anybody that's into national hunt racing, just Punchestown is the place.
It goes without saying that it's changed a lot from those early days. It's now a huge 5-day festival, huge crowds, big prize money.
Yeah, it's a huge change. I mean, it's so far removed from what you and I are the same age would remember in the early 60s. 2 days racing, a few bank races. Some of the names still are there, like the Jemison and the Downshire Cup and Mark Mahoney Champion Novice. But it's a huge change now. I mean, it's 5 days. The crowds sustain it now. There's a great success made over the crowds that come here now for the 5 days. The quality of racing, the prize money, everything about it. When you see some, looking back, what horses were running for then. But I suppose you could buy a motor car that time for a couple of £100. You wouldn't buy much of that. We'd hardly fill the car for a couple of £100 now, let alone buy it. But that's the way it was. But it has changed. And changed, everything has got for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, the facilities are better. The getting here, like my late father and my Uncle Ted were from Kildare in North Cork, and they would drive a pony and trap up as far as the Heath in Portlaoise and spend the night there in Blake's, and then come the rest of the way for the races and go. An uncle of mine from Gordon down along Silvers, Martin Buggy, and himself and one of the Carowans, they'd cycle up. I think nothing of cycling from Gordon to here. And Paddy Mullins will tell you the same story himself too. I mean, it's a fair old cycling, it's 55 miles. I don't know if the fellas today would be as anxious to cycle 55 miles to get to race meeting, but they would cycle up, go home, and cycle back the next day again.
I think they might stay at home and watch it on TV.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. But I mean, they were really true. And there was snow. I have a picture at home of Punchestown being called off in 1951 or 2 because of snow. We give out with the weather now, but there was snow in Punchestown in 1951.
Yeah, and in late April. But
Yeah.
I often remember now Ned Morrissey, who died a few months ago, was a great old owner of ours, and I remember him winning the Guinness Chase with Doubtful Venture. And in the winner's enclosure that day, he said many, many times he came to Punchestown on a push bike with Martin Buggy and the lads. They all in
Cycle
tandem up
Up along just fair old cycling now, 54 or 5 miles. Like if you said to a fella now to pop down there to Gordon like for a cup of tea and go back up again and drive in a car, he'd say, you're mad.
He wouldn't do it in a car
No,
nowadays.
he wouldn't, no. But that must have been a great occasion for you, the match.
The match was, possibly
86, was it?
86, and the mare had gone, after winning the Gold Cup, she fell in Liverpool at the first. And to come back here then, and all the controversy about who was to ride her and who wasn't, and then John Joe got the bit of cancer in these lymphs, and I was put back up on her. And I never thought she'd get beat, but that day I was just, there was a lot of pressure. Yeah. And I can tell you, when I remember going to the second last, and she wasn't the cleverest of jumpers, and I let her run wide. And just for a stride, Tommy Carmody flew up the inside on Buckhouse. And just for a stride, I thought I was beat.
You weren't the only one, though.
I nearly fell off with the fright. I'll never forget it. Like I said, how could I have done this? And lucky enough, the mare was great to get me out of trouble. Yeah.
The second last was at an old angle that time.
Yeah, it was in the straight now, but it used to be on the bend. Yeah. And when I met it wrong, I just let her drift out to give her a bit of chest room, and she landed about 8 lengths out wide, and Carmody, who was brilliant, I had slipped through on the inner, and he got a length or two, and just for 50 yards I thought I was beat. And I honestly, I don't know, I was hoping I'd fall at the last if I was going down. I just couldn't believe what I was.
You must remember it well as well, so do you?
I do. I did a commentary on it.
Yeah.
I remember it all right. Yeah. Carmody was he giving you plenty of lip before or during or after the race?
No, I thought the funny part was that time Tommy was riding most of the good horses that I was taking on, and I used to have a habit of, when I jumped the last, I'd be looking back at him, and I remember down at the start he said to me, now he says, this is a very high profile match. He says, none of that looking back now. He says, if you do beat me, he says, keep going to the line. So I enjoyed that. That gave me a bit of confidence going down to the first.
God, she was a great mare. I mean, to be able to win a champion hurling a Gold Cup and come back But I think all good Gold Cup horses would always be the champion chaser.
Would you think?
I
Yeah,
would,
I
yeah.
don't know. Well,
I don't think there's any champion chaser of his time would beat Arkle. I don't think any champion chaser would beat Cato Star. And I don't think...
it's a little before
Good
my
Gold
time.
Cup horses now.
Yeah,
But
but
I mean, Buckhouse had won the champion chase.
He had won the
previous
champion chase, yeah.
month, and it was 2 miles. That's
Yeah.
So,
But the interesting one, I think I remember you saying that, or putting up the argument anyway. Do you remember, what was the good horse against Arkle?
Flying Bolt.
Flying
Yeah,
Bolt.
yeah.
He won the champion
Yeah,
chase,
but he could
didn't
win an Irish National as well now.
Yeah, he could.
Do you know what I mean?
And
That's
indeed,
three
with
and a half
12.5
miles,
or
yeah,
something.
12.5, you know. No, but I always think that a real good, I'm not talking about an average Gold Cup horse, but the best Gold Cup horses to me would always beat the best champion chasers.
Well, it bears out in in recent years, or in the last 20 years, the Arkle chase has been nearly the best guide to the Gold Cup, with War of Attrition, Kick and King, and they both got beaten the Arkle, did they? Just
Might have,
beat.
yeah, might
I
have,
think
yeah,
they both only just got beat,
Yeah.
but they won Gold Cups. So there's a lot in what you say, you know, that they have to have a good Gold Cup horse.
Yeah,
as
good
you
Gold
say,
Cup horse, yeah,
has to have the speed to be able to go with the best at 2 miles, and then be able to see out
Sustain it,
3-2.
yeah.
sticking with that match race, how did it come about, or who were the innovators behind it?
Well, there was a couple of little mistakes. There was a lovely race that Gorn had put on. They were doing everything to get Dawn Run. And because it wasn't in the regular entries, my father missed the race and missed entering her. So that was a mistake. And we were at the Curragh, I think, for the Lincoln meeting. And Vincent O'Brien came over to me, and I nearly fainted when I saw him coming over. I said he couldn't want me anyway. So the next thing, he pulled me aside and he said, do you think, would your father be agreeable if we set up a match between Dawn Run and Buckhouse? And I said, sure, I'll ask him. And I went down, we were saddling one probably in the Lincoln. And I said, Vincent O'Brien and a few people are trying to get a match organised for Punchestown. And he looked at me with a bit of a smile and he says, if the money is good enough, we'll turn up. So I went back up to Vincent O'Brien, and then he and the Turf Club and the Purcells agreed to put in a bit of the purse, and Punchestown. I think Mrs. Hill felt that she had the best horse, so she didn't put any money up and took it all home.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll never forget that day that the
25,000.
25,000 was a huge prize
money,
at the time.
Huge prize. Huge. In 1986, I mean, that's 30 years ago. Like, I mean, it was a huge amount of money.
32 years ago,
Yeah.
Jeez, it frightens me. But I'll never forget when I passed the post. It was a bit like Croke Park. The roar of the crowd, it sort of pushed me over a bit, the roar as I passed the post. And we've ridden in plenty of big races here in Punchestown, and you'd never get it. I'll never forget that roar just as they passed the post. It felt like it pushed me over a bit. It was amazing towards any other race.
And I think the fact that you said the mayor ran off the second last, gave Buckhouse a chance to get back up the inner again. The two people upsides going to last. It made it that big exciting as well too.
And I remember, I think, often watching the tape after. Robert Hall got it from me about 15 years later, and you commentated on the race. And as they go to the line, Dawn Run wins it and Buckhouse second, and what a great race they gave us. I remember you saying that. And
It was very original, wasn't it?
but I mean, it was an instant reaction as opposed to a prepared one a week later.
Yeah.
You know, that it obviously was a head-to-head. Like, there was never more than 2 lengths between them from start to finish. And I'm sure it was exciting. It wasn't exciting for me till we got past the post, I can tell you that.
The British sort of influence on Punchestown, I mean, we do get sort of plenty of runners from over there. I think 2 of the last 3 years they've had 6 winners, sort of Mickey Henderson, Colin Tizard, etc. You think that adds a lot to it?
It does, and it's always been there. Because I remember the jump season in England would be taper off after Liverpool. You'd have no the big races bar the Whitbread, and they'd come over here. You'd have Stan Meller and Terry Biddle come, and all them. Then Fred Winter, they'd come over and ride the horses.
Yeah,
here.
the jockeys would come over.
Yeah,
but
even
the trainers didn't bring them as much.
Fred Ryman would come, and so would Thompson Jones come.
Yeah,
They brought them
I'll
horses.
Thompson Jones from
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I think it's an amusing story anyway. Back in the day, I was writing for the Sunday Press, and I got a tip off that Harry Thompson Jones, or Tom Jones as some people call him, was sending over 4 or 5 horses. This is about 2 weeks before the festival. So I rang him, got the lowdown, wrote the story, and I went to the cinema in the Savoy in O'Connell Street on the Saturday night, came out and bought the street edition of the Sunday Press, and I opened the paper. There's a picture of Tom Jones, not the Newmarket Tom Jones, but the Welsh
singer, yeah.
It's not unusual. It was very unusual.
I thought he was coming. Yeah, very good. No, they used to come here with the horses and Punchestown. Punchestown has been a bit like, unlike Ferryhouse, you might come for the Irish National, but Punchestown it's always a place that fellas sort of, years upon years ago, all the people from the south would look upon Punchestown as where to come with their horses, their bank horses, or the fellas from the north would meet with the hunters' chasers.
Even aside from the horses, the people, what do you call your man from Virgin Flights, and what's his name? Richard Branston. Yeah. I was getting binoculars out of the car one day, and Richard Branston walked past me, and you know, I remember another year, Enda Bulger had Sean Connery into the famous horse Risk of Thunder.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had 007 here, Richard Branson. I mean, it is a place of celebrities, and you know, there's a lot of fashion here as well that the women like, and that, you know, towards, we'll say, when you were young, that's a good bit before me. You know, it was more of a men's meeting. Now it's, you know, the women come as equally as much 50-50 with the fashion and best dressed and all that, and celebrities, and you'd see them there in the champagne tent, and you know, it's a huge meeting now. Yeah.
Health and safety probably have taken a little bit away from it because the infield no longer exists, where you'd have all the hurdy-gurdies and the excitement and all the kids and things like that, and they can't stand around the banks now or the fences. Now, the addition of Ruby's Double in front of the stands has definitely added a bit to that, because people go out and watch that.
That's your father's called after, not your son.
That's
no, my father's.
I actually heard a fella in the airport coming back from Liverpool talking about Ruby and this, that, and they said they even have a fence named after him in Punchestown. So I put him right.
Put him right as right, yeah.
Ted's father, as opposed to his son.
Betty Moran, who owned the Papillon, she put that up. She was going to sponsor a race, and Joni Moore and Charlie O'Neill said, would she be interested in sponsoring a bank? Sure, the bank was a great thing. There's only one off. She paid for the bank, put it in front of the stands, and it's there forevermore. If you had a race, you had to come up with a few quid every year. You know, it'll be there like for immortal time, forever now. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's a good, safe old bank too. Billy McLaren built it. But it's great the banks around. I think the banks just keep, it's difficult, but it just adds a little bit to it, the old bank races, the Latouche and the Ladies' Cup and a few races.
The race for the local farmers.
It is, yeah, the Bishop's Court Cup as well. Yeah. You know, and when I was a kid now, Peter Lawler, who had a mare called Flying Cinders.
That's right.
She would win 2 or 3 races, and he'd ride her himself. Peter's still alive. But a lot of local people, Joe Osborne, Paddy Osborne's father was down the road here. A lot of people, Frank Farmer, as I said, down there. A lot of horses trained locally around here as well, too. The Burks up in Eadstown and that. And it was a huge thing. And even the people, he said, down in Gordon, Punchestown was a huge thing, no matter where you went.
Martin Kennelly is one of there, the man that owned Bregon. He has Millerstown stud here, where you're trying off the Kilcullen Road to come out here. He won it the last couple of years, didn't he? He has an old horse that he mines for that every year.
It used to be a great thing one time. You had to be a farmer residing in and farming land in the Kildare Hunt district, and there'd be war over some fella'd win it or have a runner in it, and the other fellas would be saying, sure, he's not a farmer, like he's getting his few quid somewhere else, and there'd be objections and all sorts of yokes, but I think they got over it. Yeah, parcel of us.
So we've done a fair bit of history, and now looking forward to this year's festival, we won't go into what'll win, you know, such and such a race.
Well, there's only one obvious winner.
We haven't got the final declarations yet, but what horses are you looking forward to seeing at the festival this year?
Well, sure, all the good horses that we saw at Cheltenham. Like, you're looking to see Sam Crow and you're looking to see Footpad. We're out two outstanding horses at Cheltenham, and you're looking to see both of them again. And after that, then you'd have to say the rest of them are sort of
the emerging mare, Lorena.
Yeah, Lorena's right.
She looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not there yet.
No, and we'd like to see.
Like
And we'd like to see Douvan stand up.
Oh yeah, well I have no doubt if Douvan stands up,
Yeah.
he'll win from here back to Kilcullen.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
they're the sort of horses that just sticking out in your mind. You know what I mean? They were.
Yeah, well, we know the race that Douvan is going for,
Yeah.
the Boyle Sports Champion Chase,
Yeah.
but the other three you mentioned there, they've got choices of.
I'd say Footpad will run the 2 mile
Yeah.
novice, and the mare will definitely run in the mare's race.
Yeah.
The novice.
Well,
runs
that
the
could
race.
open up if Sam Crow goes for the champion, which I hear that somebody is telling me that he could go for the champion hurl.
Your Jigginstown sources.
My Jigginstown sources is right, but
And what would run against him in the champion?
you see that is it.
Willie's horse that was second in the champion hurl.
Well, Bouverdere won't.
Mellon.
So
Mellon.
Mellon would be the one.
Yeah.
And I've heard that they are seriously considering that race.
I would say I'd say he's more likely to run the novice.
Yeah,
Well, then we could have maybe the race of the year because the emerging mare Lorena,
She'll run the mare's novice.
she will, I suppose, if he runs in that.
will.
novice, yeah.
Sure she will.
Punchestown brings the season to an end. We know Davy Russell is going to be champion jockey, Patrick Mullins to be champion amateur, Jigginstown champion owners, but champion trainer Gordon Elliott certainly making the running all season as he did last year. He was caught in the last couple of days by Willie Mullins. What do you see?
Well, there's huge money available at Punchestown. It's not beyond the possibilities that Willie could be champion trainer again. Like, he's up a fair task. He's $500,000 to get level. And then, but we just take, for instance, there's a couple of races there that good chase, like Douvan and Undessu could be first and second. And he might have something that could be third. That whole pot in that race could go to Willie.
Do you think he might have the advantage in the grade ones?
Oh, he definitely have the advantage with those sort of horses. I mean, Sam Crow is his outstanding horse.
Gordon's, yeah.
Gardens for those condition races or those novices or those graded races. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I think Willie has won well over $1 million every year at Punchestown for the last 8 or 9 years. So, Gordon is going to have to win over $500,000 to hold his position. So that's really the way of looking at it. If you go on the track record of the last few years, the last 10 years, Willie has won over $1 million. So that means that Gordon is going to have to win $500,000.
Yeah,
And that's really what it is. You see, last year, Willie might have been lucky too that the couple of times he got beat last year was by Jesse with Sizing John and was it our Duke or some? Oh no, the Novice Hurl, one of the Sizing horses again. You know, this year, if he gets beat in any of these big races, it's more than likely going to be Gordon. So that's a double whammy. You know, it's, you know, if Jesse or one of the English trainers beat him in a race, it's not as big a swing. But if Gordon can beat him, you see, it's a double swing.
I don't think it's quite as big a thing as the press are making it out to be. Willie's been champion trainer 10 times. And if he's not champion trainer this year, he'll be champion trainer again. And unless somebody shoots Gordon Elliott, he'll be champion trainer plenty times. Yeah. And he's had a brilliant year, leading trainer at Cheltenham. He's trained over 200 winners, never done before. He's won an English national and an Irish national. I mean,
beating Willie in photo finishes on both.
Yeah,
stages.
I mean, it's only like it's something the press and everyone else is putting out. I hope Gordon enjoys the terrific year he's have and doesn't get hung up too much on whether he's champion trainer or not. Because if he's not champion, and in 6 weeks' time he'll be starting the year again anyway, or in 6 weeks' time. I mean, it's something I'd say
well,
that.
You see, Ted, I suppose that it's the last thing that's exciting in the year, you know. So you can't blame the press for making something out of it, because we know Davy Russ is going to be champion, we know Jigginstown are going to be champion, and we know Patrick is going to be. So it's the last thing for them to build.
It does add a bit of interest.
It definitely adds a bit of interest.
Yeah.
I mean, even around at home now, every time I go into the shop, they're asking me, will he catch him? Will he? And of course, I always say he will. So we'll see. He did it last year, and he mightn't do it this year, you know. But it is exciting. But for either, it's not the be all and end all.
No.
But I wouldn't like to say that to them at the moment, I can tell you. I'd say they both badly want to win it, you know.
Okay, chaps. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Ted, for talking about Punchestown, the past.
It's a pleasure.
Present.
Punchestown is always a great place to talk about.
Great, and hopefully it'll be great in the future.